Now, what I've got here is a very, very large antenna. It's a log periodic antenna for the 3G, 4G LTE. Now, I wasn't expecting it to be this big from the pictures on eBay, and to be quite honest with you, it was only £8, £8.50 and free shipping for this antenna. It's really, really big, but I'm really interested to see what's in here because, as you know, if you've been following my channel from a while, sometimes the casing can be a little bit of a distraction to what's on the inside. We've had fancy cases before and opened them up and there's been a little PCB antenna like that. I don't think this is the case with this one, but let's take it over to the test bench and have a look at it before we start taking this thing apart. So here it is on the setup then, and yes, it is rather a large antenna. It's probably at the limit of what you can really do on a bench. I mean, you've got two possibilities when you're testing these at home. You can either have a outside setup, and this is most definitely an outside antenna, or you know, you test on the bench. I mean, it's fine with the small stuff for 2.4 gigahertz, but this is getting really to the edge of what you can do on a bench. But I haven't got the setup here where I can mount this outside and test it, and of course mounting it outside with a long run of coaxial cable brings its own problems as well. So you know, it's either like this or you wouldn't see the output on the network analyzer. You can get a pretty good idea what the output of an antenna like this is. You know, even if there are certain errors because there's a lot of reflections around something as big as this, but it's looking quite nice on the network analyzer, so let's take a closer look at that. So here we are then. I'm scanning from 600 megahertz all the way over here, all the way over to 3 gigahertz over here, and you can see this we've got two little dips here and then another one over here around 900 megahertz. So from say 800 megahertz around there to 900 megahertz, we've got this dip here. We've also got the dip on the other end of the scale there around 2.4 gigahertz. So it's, you know, around 2.2 gigahertz there to 2.45 gigahertz there. So it would probably work for a Wi-Fi network, to be honest with you. But you can see how it dips all in the middle of here, and that's typical for a broadband antenna like a log periodic. Vivaldi antennas have a similar kind of pattern to this as well. So anywhere in between here, which is in the 3G, 2G or the 4G, it's going to work really, really well for you. Right down here at you know, the sub 1 gigahertz all the way up to probably 2.4 gigahertz there. So I'm quite impressed with that. I didn't expect to see you know, such a wide frequency of response there from this antenna. I thought would at least you know, wouldn't quite live up to the hype, but it doesn't go as high as it claims. It stops at around 2.4 gigahertz, but I think we can forgive them for that, especially when you consider the price of this antenna. It's extremely cheap for the amount of antenna you're getting for your money. So I was impressed with the output of this on the network analyzer. It really covers those bands well. Now it does claim to go up to 2.7 gigahertz, but as you saw in the network analyzer, it didn't go up quite that high, and it claims to start at around 600 megahertz, and again, not quite that low, but in between there, you know, from around 750 megahertz up to 2.45 gigahertz, pretty nice and responsive at those frequencies. So now I'm really interested to see what's on the inside of this. I mean, it is a lot of antenna for your money. I mean, if you were stranded on a desert island, it would certainly make a great paddle for your raft. Now, as for the coax, you don't get that much coax, but it is, well, it feels like a quality coax. This is the kind of thickness you want if you were to mount this outside of your house, let's say on the side of your wall. This is the kind of coax you want to use for the run to your router, not like the hang on a minute, Well, that took a little bit of finding, but not like this stuff that we've seen in the past. This is just complete garbage, as I said in previous videos, but that's the kind of thickness you're looking for if you want to do a long run with this. But you know, apart from that, you're getting a lot of antenna for your money. I mean, I only paid about £8.50 for this and free shipping. So yeah, let's crack it open and see what's on the inside. So I've managed to open it up without cracking it, but if you were to buy one of these, I'd get some silicone and put a bead all around this area here so water didn't get in. But it certainly is a log periodic antenna. Now, I have gone off camera and I've made not a template, but I've put all the measurements down on here so you can download it. A link will be in the description at the bottom of this video, so you can have a go at making this if you want to with all the measurements. I'm going to make this antenna in a future video. I'm going to order all the materials in to do that, and although we're basically just recreating this antenna, you'll see some different building methods to get around a few problems, if you will. So you know, it's always interesting to build an antenna like this, and the methods I'll show you as well are things you can do quite simply at home as well with simple tools. But going back to this one here, it is really simple. You may be wondering what this tab is here, and that's for impedance matching, to keep everything at 50 ohms. So that's what that is doing there. It's not an element, it's for impedance matching. The log periodic antenna, you can see it's in two halves there. Now the top element here is the ground, and you can see the coax coming in here, and it connects all the way at the end, all the way here. So that's the outer braid of the coax, the ground being connected there, and then they've used some of the coax sleeve in here and plenty of hot glue to isolate these two elements here from the tip here, and the signal part of the coax, the inner core, is soldered to the bottom elements here, and those two elements go all the way to the end here, and they are connected on this one right at the end here. So they are a shorter design, but the feed must come in at the end, so the ground is fed in at the end and travels this way. The signal part of the coax is soldered on here and travels this way, and they all meet down here at the end. Now, I'm not going to go through all the measurements of this antenna, but the measurements are pretty straightforward. I mean, you kind of get it's almost as if they go down in fives at one point. They go from 75, 65, 55, 45, 35, 25, and then it changes right at the end with these two small elements there at 19mm and 16mm, and the spacing between all the elements is a little bit different, but it's a pretty simple antenna to build because it's almost a mirror image of each other. Both elements are virtually identical mirror images, apart from the top ground one here that has that impedance tab on the side. So you can get a feel for how these things are built, but they must be fed right at the end there, which also, if you wanted to add some more coax to this, I wouldn't go with connectors unless you know, you don't have the tools, a soldering iron, to do that. If this was going to be my antenna and I was going to put it up permanently at the side of my house for a 4G 3G signal, I would buy some coax on a reel, and I would remove this piece of coax and then solder my new coax on, just so I wouldn't have any connectors connecting them, because connectors do have a little bit of loss to them. But you know, for the money, I must say, £8.50, you're getting a hell of a lot of antenna here. I really don't know how they make their money from something like this, but yeah, it is a nice design, and as you saw in the network analyzer, it would perform really well. And as I say, regarding cost, I mean, you get these clamps with it as well, and you could easily pay a fiver for these just on their own on eBay, a couple of clamps. I know my local hardware store, I mean, I know he's got different overheads, but he'd probably sell those for about £5 for a bag for two clamps like that. So yeah, it's a short and sweet video. I hope you got an overview of this and how well it works. And we are going to build this in a future video as soon as I get the materials in, and I'll just show you some changes I make to the overall design, mainly to do with the construction. I'm not going to change any of the measurements of this antenna at all, so it should hopefully, if we test it, be exactly the same on the network analyzer or close to what this one is. And as far as the frequencies are concerned with this antenna, it's claimed that it's 698 to 960, and I did think when I was testing this that I read it as 600 megahertz, but you can see if you look back on the video, it's pretty damn close to this. 1710, I'd say yes, but not going up to 2.7 gigahertz, 2700 megahertz there. It's not going anywhere near close to that. As you saw on the network analyzer, it drops off around 2.45 gigahertz. Now, you could say that I'm testing it indoors. Maybe, you know, if you tested it outdoors, we get some different results. But as you saw in between here, though, the 960 to 1700, it wasn't too bad in the middle there. I mean, if you wanted to use this as a antenna for a software-defined radio, for instance, you know, and you were looking at these frequencies in between, it's not going to be, you know, pretty bad for you at all. It's certainly not going to be a poor performer, and that's the one thing about a log periodic. It does cover a wide span of the frequency, but you know, it's still better in certain little bits of that frequency band. It doesn't, you know, blanket it in one go. You will get spikes and dips along a wide band like that. But, you know, I think if you look back on the video, you'll see that they're pretty spot on with these numbers. Not quite so spot on going up to 2.7 gigahertz there, but not too bad at all. And especially when you do consider it's only around £8, £8.50. I don't think you can really moan at that at all. So I hope you found this video interesting, and I look forward to building one of these in a future video, and it won't be too long either. I'm ordering the parts to do that today. I am going to pop this back together again. I don't want this antenna, but what I'll do, I'll put it all back together, put some silicone sealant around here as well, and offer it up to one of my Patreon. So, you know, if you do want to get your hands on some of this stuff that I look at from time to time, and you want to help support the channel, then please feel free to pop over onto Patreon. And if you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. Comments or questions, drop them below. As I say, all the measurements will be available in the description if you want to have a go at building one of these, and hopefully you'll join me on the next one.